I really like playing as the Reaper when it comes to the control point unlocks and those type of like game modes. And the reason for it is spawns are very, very predictable, and especially in a map like this, you know exactly where the enemy has to go. You know exactly where your teammates have to go. You know that they're going to be spawning in a particular area, and as much as some levels obviously have variation, for the most part, they're going to spawn in one general area. And for an offensive player like the Reaper, and offensive player like me, I've always been an offensive player in FPS games, that is a great recipe for success. Because if you can have a general idea of where they're going to spawn and where they need to go, it doesn't take a ton of intelligence to realize where you need to be and what needs to be done, even as the ebb and flow of the match changes. So in this particular instance, playing as the Reaper as an offensive player, I really enjoyed taking advantage of the layout of this particular map. As you can see, it's basically just a big circle with two tiers, one upper level, which I'm on right now, and a lower tier where the objective is. And then there are two spawn points, one for your team, one for the other team, sort of at the north and south ends of those of that circle. So your job basically throughout this part is, especially if you have a team with Lucio or a Mercy or someone that can continually give you some health regeneration, or even a defensive player like Reinhardt, if he's able to put up his shield as you're turning corners, he gives you the option of shooting through the shield while also not putting yourself up for being destroyed. So it's nice to have that. But the actual layout of the map is pretty easy to predict, and I mean, not all of them are going to be this easy, not all of them are very predictable, but in this case it was. And for the most part in this, my job was to just get in there and annihilate everyone, and it's basically what I did. And what you'll see for the most part though when I like to play the Reaper, especially in these style of maps, is apart from the fact that when you kill someone, he gives you the 25% health regeneration for collecting the souls, which is actually much better than a lot of other offensive players you can play in this game, so there's no complaints there. Well, I definitely know I'm going to be playing Reaper if I know that I have a teammate playing Lucio or Mercy, because that way I can get really into the thick of things, get behind people, flank, and destroy, and not have to worry about having to get a kill to stay alive, because they will help me with that process. But as you see again, when I like playing as the Reaper, the one other thing is, a lot of people I've seen in other gameplays online when they play as the Reaper, they don't really use, or they might use like his actual his like special moves, I guess, like the left shift and the like the cloaking here and the teleport. They'll use it purely for offensive reasons, and great, absolutely, use them that way. I use them too. But the one thing I think I've seen a lot of people overlook is you can also use them as a defensive tactic. And the reason for that you'll see is I don't use any real special move a lot of the time to push up in this. I just use the cover here. Well, I do here, but I use a lot of the cover here to get myself into close quarters ranges. And then what I do after that is when I realize I'm in trouble or I don't have a support player to actually help keep me alive and replenish my health, I'll use the teleport to retreat, or I'll use the flank to retreat. And the flank is so good. I think it's one of the more powerful overall like specials for a character to use in the game, as long as you're using it at the right time, because no one can hit you when you're using it, and you look somewhat invisible. A lot of people that haven't been playing the game very long, they don't even see you, especially in darker maps too, where the environment is darker, there's lots of shadows. A lot of the time, if they're in an urgent mood to move up or push up, or they're just not really paying all that much attention, you can slip right by them and attack them from behind, and they didn't even know you were there. So that's the fun part with it. But I think it's an extremely powerful overall like special for a character to have when it's well utilized. In this case here though, when we switched, this was an example of like the second control point here being a bit, well, it's not as good, I guess you could say, because there's just so many ways to get into the corridor where the control point is. So that was the issue with that actual section here. Like you'll see, look at how many different ways there is of getting in here, and that's the problem with this one. It didn't work as well, but it still works pretty good. The one thing I like too about with the control point style of mode is when you actually get control of the control point, you can choose whether you have your choice now. They have to come to you, so now you have the element of surprise. You have the element of you control the engagement. In this case here, since we took the control point, we knew they had to come to us. I could have stayed on the control point, but because there was little to no cover and multiple flank angles, I figure I would have been ambushed by a couple of people challenging me at once. My odds of survival would have been plummeted exponentially. So instead, I chose to go offensive. I said I have a healer with me who's also playing on the front line, so as long as I continually push them back or kill them, the healer will heal me, and my goodness, does that make one hell of a combo for frustrating the enemy and winning the game. And you'll see that's exactly what happens here. I just stayed basically in their spawn, around their spawn point area, and just continually pushed them back. And I mean, if that's the goal, if your goal is winning games, and that's the biggest paramount, you do what it takes. And I did what I did what I needed to do. I was going to say I did what it took, but I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. The one thing I have been trying to get better at with the Reaper is the special. The reason being is because you are vulnerable, and it is a bit time consuming, so you have to sort of plan your route and make sure that hopefully the enemy's not completely paying attention to you as you deploy it. Otherwise, 2 or 3 of them might just attack you at once, they kill you, and your special is basically reduced to nothing. So you have to time it well. It's great attacking from above too, even though I didn't really take advantage of that in this particular gameplay, but as you'll see in future gameplays, I do. So we win this one, and I think I get like a 91% kill participation, 32 kills, something like that. Tune in for the scorecard. If you want to see a particular character or particular gameplays in the future, suggest it. I'll do my best. Ball out, everyone.
Of the game.
Heroes never die.